Hey everyone, Reflected here. Today, I'm going to walk you through some of the checklists in the F-14 Tomcat. There are several videos about cold starts already, but in my Tomcat campaigns, I've also implemented takeoff, landing, fence-in, and sometimes even refueling checklists. Some of them were called out by the Rio as a challenge and the pilot had to reply to each of them. Some of them were just recited by the pilot. Let's go through these checklist items one by one to see what they really mean. Let's start with the takeoff checklist. You begin as soon as you start taxiing. The Rio calls brakes, and the pilot's reply is check OK, accumulator pressure is up. As soon as you start rolling, you tap the brakes to make sure they work. If they don't, you're not going anywhere. Then you glance at the emergency brake accumulator pressure gauge just behind the stick. It also makes sense to check if the nose wheel steering is working before you really need to turn. Fuel total is whatever pounds. The reply is normal feed, so make sure the guard is down here. Auto transfer, make sure that the wing X trans switch is in the auto position. That means with weight on the wheels, the fuel in the external tank is not used. If set to override, then it is. In off, it won't, even if you're airborne. So make sure it's in auto. Then, transfer checked. I'm not 100% sure, but I think it means that before taxiing, you set it to override, and then looked at the fuel quantity in the external tanks decrease to make sure that they will feed once airborne. Total, whatever pounds, wings, so and so, aft and left, forward and right, feed tanks full. You basically walk through the different fuel quantities with the help of this switch. And lastly, bingo set. Make sure you set your bingo as briefed over here. Next item is canopy closed, locks engaged, light out, stripes aligned, handle in closed position. The reply is closed, locks engaged, light out, seal inflated, handle in closed position. So make sure there's no gap, the locks are fully engaged, the handle looks good, you have no warning light, and the canopy seal works too. Seat arm, top and bottom, command eject aft or forward, strapped in 6 ways. The reply, seat arm, top and bottom, pilot or MCO in the window, strapped in 6 ways. So basically you arm your ejection seat. There's one pin down here and one on top. The command eject handle is on the left side of the Rio cockpit. Moving it forward means if the Rio ejects, the pilot will stay. Moving it aft means if the Rio ejects, both will go. If the pilot ejects, both go anyway. There's no point in staying for the Rio without any control over the jet. This should be set as agreed and displayed in this little window here. But in DCS it's not functional, so you won't see anything here. And of course, check that you're properly strapped in. Stab AUG, or SAS, all on. Make sure the pitch, roll, and yaw stability augmentation systems are engaged, otherwise the jet will be much harder to control. ATLS on. That's the asymmetrical thrust limiting system switch here. When it's on, where it should be, it doesn't let either engine go beyond minimum afterburner until the other engine's afterburner is lit too. It's needed because the engines are placed so wide apart that if one is in mil power and the other is in full afterburner, the jet may depart controlled flight, you enter a flat spin, you eject, your Rio headbutts the canopy rail and dies. You know, you don't need that, do you? All circuit breakers set, all in. Just make sure none of these have popped out down here. Master test switch off. During the startup procedure, you have performed tons of bit tests with the help of the master switch. Just make sure you turned it back to the off position. Bidirectional, or bi-di, normal. It's the bidirectional hydraulic transfer pump. Make sure that this red cover is down. That means the switch is in the normal position. Without hydraulics, you can't control the jet, so to be safe, the Tomcat has 2 separate systems. The combined side, powered by a pump in the left engine, and the flight side, powered by the right engine. They should be at 3000 psi approximately. Now, if one system should fail and the pressure drops, This bidive pump wakes up and kicks into action to pressurize the faulty side from the good side to maintain at least 2400 to 2600 psi without an interchange of system fluid. Compass, standby gyro, altimeter, compass synced, so look at the different compasses you have and make sure they show the same. Standby gyro erect, make sure you've uncaged this one. Altimeter set, so you've checked the briefing or the ATIS for the local setting and you've set it in this little window here. Wings, 20 degrees auto, both lights out. So make sure your wings are swept forward. Look at this indicator and you can also visually check by looking back. Check that you don't have any caution lights indicating otherwise. Now this item happens on the cat director's signal when you approach the catapult on the ship. When you're taking off from a field, you skip this item as you taxi with your wings swept back and only flip it to auto when you take the runway. Flaps and slats as required. That would be down on the carrier and maneuver on the field. But since you're taxiing with your wings swept back, you skip this one too. Spoilers and anti-skid. When on the carrier, that's spoiler module on, so make sure it's engaged here. Spoiler brake off here. On the field, that's spoiler module on, spoiler brake selected, so this is switched to both. But again, you only engage it when you take the runway. Trim set. On the shore it's 000. On the carrier it's as desired, but usually something like 006, so the elevator is set 6 units nose up. Harness locked. When you're strapped in, you can lock and unlock your harness with this lever down here on your left side. It's not functional in DCS. When unlocked, it gives you more freedom of movement, but that's not what you want on takeoff or landing. Controls. The official reply is free 33-degree aft stick, full spoiler deflection left and right, hydraulics 3000 psi. So make sure you can pull the stick fully back, make sure the spoilers come up fully left and right, and check the hydraulic pressure gauge that it indicates 3000 psi. This is basically the wipeout, and the way Bio remembers it was a bit more simple. He said, here comes the wipeout, left, aft, right, forward, feels good. I've seen real life videos where the pilot moved it front, aft, left, then right, then a full circle left, and another one to the right. I guess it comes down to personal habits. However, this is also something that's performed later, once you're lined up on centerline, or you're at full power hooked up to the cat, not while taxiing. All warning and caution lights out, just a last glance that you have no malfunctions. Then, when you're ready and holding short at the runway, you contact tower for takeoff clearance. Nellis Tower, Gunfighter 1-1, holding short 03 right, ready for departure. The reply comes, Gunfighter 1-1, winds calm, clear for takeoff 03 right. Clear for takeoff 03 right, Gunfighter 1-1. As you take the runway, make sure you complete the missing items. Wings at 20 auto, both lights out. Flaps maneuver. Spoiler module on, spoiler brake selected. Then you stop on centerline, stand on the brakes, power up to mill power, and perform the wipeout. Note that in DCS the brakes are not strong enough to hold you at mill power. Okay, we're airborne and want to get ready to fight, so time to fence in. That means we make sure the jet is ready for combat. Once you're engaged, you don't want to fiddle with any switches. You need to concentrate on defeating the enemy. So here's the checklist. Sidewinder tone up. Make sure this knob here is turned off. You don't want to be wondering why you don't have a Sidewinder growl when it's just this knob that was set all the way down. That would be stupid. Radio and ICS volumes set. Make sure you're able to hear everyone you need to hear. Roll SAS off. At or above 15 units of AOA where your jet will be during ACM, the roll SAS starts working against you. It wants to stabilize the aircraft while you want to maneuver hard. So make sure you turn it off, but only the roll SAS. Alpha computer circuit breaker in. That's in the Rio cockpit, you don't have to worry about that. Fuel switches, auto, normal, bug out set. So external transfer is set to auto. The feed is in normal, guard down. And you have your bingo set to know when you need to bug out. Weapon select as desired. ACM guard as desired. When you flip it up, it automatically sets up everything else for combat. But your AIM-7s will go into boreside mode and you can't launch your Phoenixes in TWS. It's useful when in close combat, otherwise just leave it down. Gun rate high or low if you're going against ground targets. Sidewinder coolant on. Make sure that the Sidewinder seeker head cooling has been enabled. Missile prep on. Missile mode normal. Master arm on or training. PDCP air-to-air. That's the pilot display control panel. So basically the HUD. And you need to set it to air-to-air here. Mils plus 53. That's to set the gun elevation lead in mils for the manual air-to-air and air-to-ground modes. When you start in the air, it's already set for you, but when you do a cold start, you need to do it yourself. Also, make sure your ammo counter is set, because on cold start, it's set to 0, and I've got many complaints about my campaign saying, hey, the guns are empty. Now they're not, you just need to set this. G-suit, checked. As far as I know, you press this button here to check if your G-suit works, and it's able to inflate when needed. You don't want to find out it's not working when in a 6G turn with a bandit. Seat and rudder pedals adjusted. Irrelevant in DCS, just make sure you're sitting comfortable. Lap belts secure. Not exactly sure what this means. My guess is that when you tighten the belts, there's always some loose ends that can be flapping around, and you don't want that to happen. So tuck those loose ends in properly. Loose gear stowed. You don't want your helmet back hitting the canopy when inverted. Make sure everything is stowed. By the way, this is why at the end of the G-worm maneuver, you roll inverted for a few seconds to make sure nothing falls down or up, you know what I mean. That's it, you're ready to fight. Now let's have a look at the in-flight refueling checklist. This one's much shorter. WCS switch, standby, meaning the Rio turns off the radar. Arming switches, safe. You want to make sure you don't shoot down the tanker. The Navy will be eternally grateful for it. Dump switch, off. No point in getting motion lotion if you're simultaneously pumping it out on the backside. Air source, left engine. This is to prevent fuel fumes from entering the cockpit through the ECS because of possible fuel spills during refueling. Refuel probe, as desired. Transition light off. So make sure it's fully extended. You have two options, all extend, this refuels all tanks, or fuselage extend, this refuels the fuselage tank only. Wing sweep mode, manual, angle as desired. Now a lot of people recommend bomb mode, but Paco told me he always used 20 degrees. It's up to you. Visors, recommended down. That's irrelevant in DCS. Okay, mission complete. We're ready to land. The landing checklist can be called out by the RIO or just recited by the pilot, and the RIO just makes sure everything is okay. It should be performed downwind after the brake before hitting the beam position. Wings 20 degrees auto. This is important because you performed your overhead brake with the wings swept fully back, and you should have moved them to auto at around 270 knots. Wheels 3 down and locked. Also check the transition light is out. During carrier quals, when the gear is not raised after launch, the pilot should check the launch bar light is off prior to each landing. SAS all on. You'll need all the stability you can get in the groove. Flaps full down. DLC checked. Make sure it's engaged and check if it works. You can either look back or look at the AOA indicator as you move the thumb wheel. Hook as desired. The transition light should be out too. Harness locked. Again, it's this lever down here. If you forget to lock it before an arrested landing, your face will assume the shape of the ACM panel when you catch that wire. Speed brakes extended. Check the indicator here and make sure it's fully out. Brakes check. So check the pressure down here behind the stick. Fuel check. It's good to know how much fuel you have left in case you need to bolter. Okay, that's it. I hope you enjoyed the video and managed to learn something new. These checklists are set up in an interactive way in all my DCS F-14 campaigns, both Zone 5 and Fear the Bones, as well as Speed and Angels, my upcoming one with Paco Chierici. Stay tuned for more campaign updates and don't forget to subscribe. See ya!